So that's all the questions we have. If anybody in the audience has a question you want to direct individually or to the entire panel, they'll get 90 seconds to answer. And if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll go from there. And I'll try to repeat the questions for everybody.
So Chris and Taryn, my challenge to you would be to recognize that good policy comes from moderation and incremental changes. Dropping 40% of excise tax, a loss of $84 million to municipalities, is rather drastic. We all recognize in the private sector, which I champion, it's more and more difficult in this region, but I still champion the private sector, that we need basic infrastructure. It's kind of a false choice to say individuals you could save on your excise taxes, but you can forget about roads. Small businesses in a rural region of the state need roads. So I guess I'd ask Chris and Karen, what's the alternative? For Peggy and Jeff, my question would be, some good people with good minds out there are thinking, why did the legislature in 1929 create the disconnect between excise taxes and actual requirement that you spend on local roads? Jeff, your materials are informative that you spend, as a practical matter, this money on local roads. But there is no legal requirement that you actually do that, and some municipalities don't. The responsible ones do, but some don't. So I think there's challenges for both sides of this debate. I'm glad the debate's coming forward, but I've got to say to the proponents of this kind of drastic cut in excise taxes, what's your alternative? Are you saying to small businesses you're not going to have maintenance of rural roads? What's going to happen?
We'll start. Chris, you have it. Well, what is the alternative?
Again, I'm not an elected official, but I'd just like to briefly tell you a little story about the city of Waterville. The Waterville City Council over the past few years has committed themselves to controlling city spending. And in doing so, they were able to reduce property taxes. Now, some of the opponents may think that this is a red flag and that tremendous services were cut and the sky was falling and the roads were crumbling beneath our feet, but in fact the exact opposite is true. Waterville managed to maintain and repair all of their city roads as well as some state roads that the state had not yet repaired. They were able to build new public works infrastructure and salt sheds. They were able to also increase their reserve fund from $1 million to $10 million. A commitment to controlling spending and to taking a long, hard look at how that city was running government allowed them to make these dramatic improvements to the city that lowered the tax burden for their residents. Again, I'm not an elected official, but I also think that good policy benefits the people of Maine, and the people of Maine right now are paying too much in excise taxes. Question 2, vote yes, pay less, is a chance to enact some good policy to make sure that the people of Maine realize the local tax relief that has been promised by many of the opponents of this campaign, local property tax relief that has been promised but not delivered. This is our opportunity to create that tax relief, to put money back in our pockets.
Jeff, you want to take the other side of the question?
Well, I'll take the question that was propounded with regard to the legal requirements to use this money for the roads. There's a historical reason for that. The answer's in the materials that we have here. There's a constitutional provision that effectively prohibits the legislature from making that a required dedicated use. And the reason for that is when this law was created in 1929, it was a property tax, a general fund property tax on cars. And that's the way it's still done in Connecticut today. Your car is like your house, and its value goes under the property tax. So it went into the general fund. At that time, some primordial Maine Municipal Association must have gotten a constitutional amendment to say that the legislature really can't require that money to be dedicated because it was general fund revenue before that. So there's a legal reason on a statewide level why this money isn't dedicated for road use. Almost all town meeting municipalities, in any event, legally dedicate it locally through their town meeting warrant. And so there's a legal dedication of these funds for roads on the local level in most communities in Maine.
We've got about 5 minutes left here. If there's another question, we probably can get through that one as well. Go ahead.
I really had more of a comment than anything. I think grouping all towns and cities together in this is the wrong thing to do. I know in the city of Brewer that we've complied with with LD1. We've lowered property taxes. We've done everything that we can possibly do within our budget, and we've maintained services. We've not added new employees. We've done all of the things. So where's the state? And all they keep doing is passing on unfunded mandates to us. So instead of looking at the little towns and cities that are trying to keep up with all the unfunded mandates, I think you need to be going after the state and make them leave us alone and let us maintain what we're doing and doing it right. Because we are there for all of the citizens to see, not all the citizens see what the state's doing. So take a look at them and not us.
Comments from the panel?
Well, I certainly understand what you're saying, and we're also focused on reining in state spending and having more reasonable increases in state spending. That's why question 4 is also on the ballot. But this is a statewide rate, set not at the local level, but set in state statute. And the only opportunity to change it is to change that state statute that impacts all towns directly and also impacts all Maine families directly. And so that's the process to change this rate. The legislature either has to do it or it has to be done through citizens' initiative. There's not an opportunity for local towns to decide what kind of rate. If the local towns wanted to set up an opportunity where they could change the rate, they could change the law to say up to so many mills, and then they could set the rate locally.
I'm not sure I have anything to say on that. I agree with you, Gail.
We're pretty well out of time. How about, and this wasn't in the plan, but I'm going to ad-lib anyway. How about we give each one of them kind of just a 30, 60 seconds to kind of finish up your last kind of statements, and then we'll let everybody get started on their day. We'll have Jeff start. Just kind of wrap up of your opinion, your thoughts.
At this juncture, we thank you very much for providing this opportunity. I think that's the way that this thing works. It's a nice forum. It's probably the best well-attended forum that I've been to on this subject. I'm finding as I go out on the road that there's a little bit of a blasé attitude I'm experiencing with regard to the November 3rd election. It seems like there are 7 questions out there, a lot on the ballot, something for everybody, young and old, so you'd think there'd be some excitement, but I'm not catching it yet. Maybe it's still early in the campaign season. On slide 16 of our PowerPoint, you see the municipal objections to this proposal. They've been well articulated here in this debate. I think they've come to the top. This is local money. It's used for local roads. As a matter of fact, what happens is a big steep reduction in that revenue. There are going to be serious impacts. The impacts really are either public works reductions and or property tax increases. That's not a good thing from our perspective. It would not be helpful to Maine's people. It would probably result in an increase of the real estate property tax, which is something that is disadvantageous to everybody.
I thank you as well. This has been a great opportunity for us to get our message out there, our message of vote yes, pay less. And I would just ask you to leave with a few thoughts on your mind here. Do not be fooled by the doom and gloom arguments of the opponents. Remember, 1 out of every $7 we earn is taken away from us in taxes by state and local government. Question number 2 is a chance to alleviate that burden. Putting more money back in our pockets saves the average Maine family $800 over the first 5 years of ownership. Putting more money back in our pockets, putting people back to work in dealerships across the state. We have an opportunity on November 3rd to make real and positive change for the families of Maine to help them better face their financial futures. Vote yes, pay less, and thank you very much.
I'm going to stand up. Maybe I project better. I want to thank you, too, for having the municipal side of this. Very complex, very detailed in terms of what we're trying to do. But the city government across the state, city and town government, have been trying to do more with less for a long time, and we continue to do that. Are we going to make the citizens suffer if this gets voted in? No. We're going to try to make it work for them. We're going to try to make them happy with the service levels that they have. But undoubtedly, cause and effect has got to be taken into consideration because it's not going to be an easy case.
Thank you again for the opportunity. It's great to be back in the Twin Cities. I just want to remind you, Maine has the 7th highest auto excise tax in the country. 22 states have no auto excise tax, and they still maintain their roads. This is an opportunity to lower the tax rate. It's the only tax solely paid by Maine families. Question 2 gives you that opportunity to vote yes, as Chris said, to pay less, and to finally make it more affordable for a Maine family to get into a newer, safer, cleaner car. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this program presented by the Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce.